Alrighty folks, we coming at you today with an update to the version 1.2 tier list. As of recording this, the video has been up for about a week. We had a lot of good people making points in the comments, a lot of discussions going back and forth, talking about where these heroes should be. A lot of people have played more games on the patch now that it's been out for nearly 2 weeks. I think tomorrow will be 2 weeks, so we've got some more experience. We've seen where the meta's adjusted. We've heard from some other prominent creators like Penzo, who's put out both a tier list and a top 5 heroes at each role and how to build them. Everything's kind of settled out. I expected us to get word by now on the Winterfest patch or some sort of patch notes for that, but we have not got that yet. So we're coming at you with an update. I'm going to highlight a couple comments that we got in that video as well. Same thing applies to this one. Let me know in the comments where you think these heroes should be versus where I have them. But let's get right into it. This that I'm showing you now is the full tier list from the previous video. If you haven't checked it out, you can check out that video. I'll put the thumbnail up on the screen here, and you can find the link into the comments on that one. You can go in there and check out those comments that we got as well. But this is what we're starting with. Now let me show you what we're going to do with it here. We are going to change it around here. So this is the new tier list that we've got organized, where we've removed the needs buff tier because nobody fell into that tier. I think most of the heroes are pretty balanced right now. And then we've added an S tier as just broken completely. You know, too strong needs nerfs, essentially. And then we've split the A tier up into A+, which is top priority pick and bans, and then A-, which is the always good as we had A before. B is essentially the same thing, but we've changed the title to matchup or comp dependent. And then C tier, which is instead of not very meta, just rarely gets good value, because I don't want to say that these heroes aren't necessarily in the meta. It's just there has to be specific situations where you get the most value out of them. So I've went ahead and wrote down where I want to move these heroes around. We'll go top to bottom because I think most of you guys want to see where the top heroes are rather than where all the bottom tier heroes are. So let's get right into it. Move some heroes around, talk about our moves, and highlight a couple comments as we go. So thanks for checking out the video, and let's get right into it. So first off, I think if you've been playing, you know which hero belongs in the S broken tier. It's Bellica. She's just way too strong right now. Whether it's at support or mid, the CC chains and just the damage combos that she can pull off is absolutely ridiculous, especially in the late game. She's just one-shotting a lot of people now, even by herself. Really hard to play into at support. You're building her full damage at support. It's just, you know, they buffed her a little too much. I think we can all agree they buffed her a little too much. So A+ tier, this is where things are going to get weird because we're going to have to split a lot of these heroes out of the A tier, and some other heroes from the B tier are going to have to move up to A- and stuff like that. So going through here, first off, Aurora, we're going to leave her in A+ tier. I know a lot of people had some stuff to say about her being in the S tier. Here's a couple comments I wanted to highlight. We got this one, which says, from Pat Johnson, which says, I think you got Aurora a little higher than she should be. If the support runs cleanse, it can completely nerf her, and engaging as her can be a pain. She takes a lot of poke trying to get close enough for her stupid ult, or she can't really do much after. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Now, I'm glad you prefaced that at the end. I think she does have a very good engage if she slides in with the ice wall. I think that's the whole deal. But if the support runs cleanse, it does heavily nerf her. So I'm with you on that one. Another one we wanted to highlight about Aurora is definitely not pick or ban. I hardly see her TBH, and a cleanse counters the main thing she has going for her in team fights, which is her ult. So I do agree, you're seeing a lot of supports run cleanse now, which they should be because we are in a pretty heavy CC meta. But still around the gold range, gold 2, gold 1, where I've been playing, you're going to see her picked or banned pretty much 90% of games. So we're going to leave her up here. Not necessarily that she is as good as as often as she's getting picked or banned, but it's just you have to respect and play around her. If you are the support and you're running cleanse, you're probably holding that cleanse for her. Like, if you're building and playing around a hero, you know, she's still a top priority in the pick or ban phase. So we're going to leave her up here in the A+ tier. And now we're going to look in the A- tier, or what is now called the A- tier, and talk about what heroes we want to move up or leave in the A- tier. So first off, Faye, Argus, Decker, they got to move up here. Decker, honestly, I'm going to put at the very top. We'll go through the order again at the end, but honestly, Decker is probably right behind Bellica as one of the most broken heroes in the game. Just absolutely impossible to counter. Zinx is definitely a top priority pick or ban. Murdoch, same way, probably the best carry in the game right now. Howitzer is a little bit more borderline because I think a lot of the mids have a lot of pros and cons going for them, but I'm still going to put him up here, as well as Drongo. So you look at what we have in here, you know, it's kind of what you would expect right now with the current DPS and CC meta combination that we have. Decker, like I said, incredibly frustrating to play against. The long-range stun is just, it can be a game ender for you, especially if she hits the stun, then closes the gap and cages you. It's just really hard to deal with her in duo lane, and then she still has great presence late game into the team fights. Faye and Argus, same thing, massive damage output potential. Faye especially has great poke, and Argus can have really good poke too if you're just managing his mana as good as you can, because you do have to mana management pretty well on him to stay sustained up in mid lane. Zinx, obviously very unique, has the revive, has great poke in lane, really frustrating to play against, and can keep the carry healed up, so it's like, got a lot going for her. Murdoch, Drongo, I think these two are the two clear-cut top carries that I would say right now, just because of how the builds are favoring them. Murdoch, obviously you're going Anoxian Quiver, abusing his passive, spamming out autos, doing a ton of damage, and you've got a cross-map snipe to help him snowball even more if he's picking up kills out of solo lane or mid lane, helping your jungler win 1v1 jungle fights if he's paying attention. So Murdoch, with the safety of his pushback and the roots from his mines and stuff like that, you're just not really sacrificing anything to play him. I think we got a couple comments. I didn't pull any of them up here to highlight, but we got a couple comments about Murdoch being as good as he is, and I definitely agree with you. Murdoch is incredibly strong right now. Drongo, same thing. His passive works well with the current builds. You're building crit on him. He has incredibly fast clear with the boomerang. Good safety and mobility with the silence and his ult to push him back out of engagements, so he's got to be up here. Howitzer may be the only one that's kind of hit or miss for the A+ tier, because you're probably not seeing him in every game, but there are a lot of situations where he's, on one hand, very safe if you have his ultimate and you're good at using his knockback mine, and with his slow from his minefield being so powerful now, he can really make a difference in team fights late game, does a ton of damage, can blow up the enemy carry from range, and that's really what you're looking for. Builds Soulbinder really well, which can accelerate him into an uncatchable position late game, so we'll put him up here in A+. Looking at some of the other ones in this A- tier right now that we want to move up, we're looking at probably leaving Iggy and Steel down here in A-. They are always good, but you're probably never seeing... You occasionally see a Steel ban, but he's just not absolutely broken like some of these other options are. You're seeing a lot of DPS supports, so you may see Steel picked more in solo lane than actually at support. But Richter, we're going to move up here because he's Richter. You know what happens if he hits the pull and he has his silence and he has his ultimate. It's basically a game ender. You could make the same argument about Aurora, that if your support's running cleanse and they're cleansing him off, then he is less valuable. But same thing with Aurora applies. Your support has to be playing around the Richter. Your support has to be holding that cleanse specifically for the Richter pull or the Richter ult. And anytime you're forcing the other team to play around you, you're having a big impact. So you get Aurora and Richter on the same team, what does your support do? Which one does your support hold the cleanse for? Sev, we're going to move up here as well. I think this is another one that's kind of close. Maybe he shouldn't be up here because you're not going to probably ever see him banned. And even when he's not banned, you're not going to see him picked in every single game. But in this meta, there's not a lot of heroes late game that will be able to survive. Like, getting wailed on by a mid laner or something like that, or getting bursted by a Fae, or getting bursted by an Argus or a Decker Cage or whatever. Not probably a single other hero except for maybe Greystone with this ult, or like Terra when she's ulting, or like a Rampage when he's ulting, is going to be able to survive that level of burst and that level of DPS. You're still going to have an issue, obviously, with carries who are running Sky Splitter and burning your health down, because you're going to be building huge health pools on Sevrog. No matter what, you're always building a huge health pool on Sevrog. So, but we're going to put him up here because I think he does do very well in solo lane, as well as in jungle. Can be hard to deal with in solo lane if you don't keep him down early, for sure. So we're going to put him up here. We're also going to slide Countess up here. Now, Countess, you probably won't see her banned too much. I have seen her banned some, because she does offer a lot to the team, both at mid lane or jungle potentially, and she can be very annoying to deal with. Like, you're maybe not playing around her as much as you're playing around a Richter or a Murdoch or a Zinx or any of these other guys, but you are having to respect the massive DPS she can put out in a burst. Great mobility, can lock down an important hero in a team fight. You know, if she locks down the carry with her ult and stuns them, good chance that if your team actually is paying attention and focuses that carry, they can take them out before they even get out of the stun, or they can target the mid laner or something while she's got the carry stunned, and then you come out of the fight in like a 4v5 or a 3v4 or whatever. So we're going to put her up here because she is very versatile and hard to catch while ahead right now. Looking at the other ones that we still have in the A- tier, Twin, you know, Twin, you're probably not ever going to see him banned. I think he's probably maybe top of A. The carries as a whole are pretty close right now, so I don't want to put him up here with Murdoch and Drongo, although I think there's a lot of games where he will perform as well as Drongo or Murdoch. It just depends on what's going on. So we're going to leave him in the always strong. Quang, though, I think we're going to take down to matchup dependent. Especially if you guys are good with Quang, you're probably not going to be happy about that one, because Quang does offer a lot, and he is, I would say, borderline almost good. We'll probably leave him here at the very top of B, but there's not a lot of games right now where you're seeing a magical solo laner really go off and fit your team comp as good as it could be. If you are, it's going to be like a full CC solo laner, like Sevrog or Steel or something. So we're going to slide him down. Let me know what you guys think about that. You know, like I said, if you're a good Quang player, it can definitely swing the game around for your team. He still wins a lot of good solo lane matchups, but let me know if you guys have seen him. I haven't seen him as much. I see him in some games and he makes a big impact, but I haven't seen him as much as I was prior to this patch. And then we've got Sparrow up here. I don't think Sparrow deserves to be this high. She kind of takes the other team not focusing her for her to be good. If the other team is focusing the Sparrow, she's going to get shut down with that lack of mobility and stuff. But she can do absurd amounts of damage. So we're going to put her in. We're going to slide her down to B here, and just see if what you guys have to say about that, because like I said, I think the carries as a whole are pretty balanced right now, but she's probably not one of the absolute strongest ones. Then we've got Yin, who I'm actually going to move into the one-trick tier, at least for now. We did get some comments about Yin. People are happy to have her back in the game, but you're just not... When I see a Yin picked on my team at jungle, it's a similar feeling to what I get when I see a Kallari. You know, I know that if the Yin gets ahead early, and they're very good with her, then she is going to make a difference and potentially be able to carry us late game. Great mobility, great team fight with the ult and everything. Just not very easy to play, not very easy to get the most out of. Very odd hero right now. It's kind of like the Grim ability deflect with her one little projectile deflect. If you're super good at timing it, you can hit it and just be like OP with her, but very high skill cap, pretty high skill floor too, just to try to get the most out of her. So we're going to move her into one tricks. Let me know if you agree with that. I know a lot of people said she was weaker than where we had her in A tier, and I would agree she's just not always good. can get farmed in jungle if the other jungle is invading and stuff like that. So we're going to move her down to 1 trick. So I think you guys won't have too big of a problem with that. And that's going to do it for splitting up the original A tier. Now we're looking at the old B tier and seeing who we're going to move around here. I'm going to move Zarus, Crunch, and Narbash up into the always good tier. Now, Zarus is just easy to play and pretty easy to get value out of. Pretty good early game through late game. Offers a lot to the team with the cage. And you have good build options on him. You can build him mostly damage or you can build him mostly tank, and either one's kind of fine. Bruiser is really where you want to be with him. You want to be able to do good damage. I've been playing him more in jungle and trying out some different builds with him, and it just seems like you always get pretty decent value with him, so we're going to put him in the always good tier. Same thing with Crunch. This may be a little bit of personal bias because I like playing Crunch so much, but Crunch can do massive damage, and you know, the amount of CC that he has and the ability to catch multiple enemy heroes with CC, coupled with his good escape if you double dash out, he just has a lot going for him right now. He may be more matchup dependent, but I seem to always be able to navigate the build around to a situation where he is always good for me. You guys have probably been frustrated by playing some Crunches as well. I know it can be rough to play against in solo lane depending on who you're playing. And then Narbash is pretty self-explanatory. Group healing works with a lot of items right now with Everbloom. You know, the good CC with the Thunk, the team speed up, the ult. He doesn't take a lot of items to be rolling. Just works really well right now with the meta. If you're not picking a full DPS support like Decker, Bellica, Argus, Zinx type supports where you're building full damage pretty much, you're probably picking Narbash, Richter, you know, as your other supports that are just, you know, augmenting the team more than they're doing damage, and that's, you know, Narbash fits that role perfectly, helps the team out way too much. Looking through here next, we've got Gideon and Gadget. Both of them, I would say, I don't see Gadget very much anymore. You have to let me know what you guys are seeing, but I don't see Gadget anymore. I do see Gideon a lot, and I want to say he's always good, but we'll say he is always good just for the safety. He is pretty much the safest mid to play as, and he does have really good DPS right now, but you know, do you really split him up compared to Gadget? Like, him and Gadget are really close, I would say, to each other. But I've seen more Gideons do more damage right now with the ult. After his ult got buffed, it really hurts. It's hard to play into a Gideon ult. Sometimes before you could kind of ignore it a little bit. I still don't like that it has a half-second delay before the pull starts. I wish they would just revert that change. But then I guess at this point that would make him pretty broken, so we'll put him in always good. I have just been seeing him more than Gadget. I rarely see Gadget right now, and that just kind of is what it is. Grux we'll leave down here, matchup dependent. He still wins lane, but he doesn't do that much late game, doesn't have much maneuverability. Chimera, though. Chimera, we got to move up. There's no way we can leave him down here. You're never really going to see him banned, if I'm being honest. But comparing him in jungle to a Countess in jungle, he is just very good right now. We'll put him in the A+ tier. The A+ tier may be a little heavy, but we'll put him in the A+ tier because he's just so easy to use, and usually swinging around that early pressure will lead your team into better team fight potential. We got one comment about Kai that I wanted to highlight here. We said this is from about a week ago. This is right when the video came out. It says Chimera is A tier. I don't think he falls off late. I think a lot of people builds fall off late, which I definitely agree with. Take a look at this game ID, and then I pulled this up. Crazy game. Team was down 2-21 at 15 minutes. Chimera had 100% kill participation. With this build, I think doesn't fall off. So I did check this game out. It was absolutely absurd. But I'm not just going to take this one person's word for it. I've been seeing Chimera more. I've been seeing Chimera do better late game. People are no longer building the full Overlord tank Chimera as much. They're building kind of hybrid Chimera with either Sky Splitter or Bonesaw. and hitting people really hard, slowing them down, keeping them from being able to escape. I think Chimera is back into that position where if they've leveled their leap or they have at least one slowing item built, you basically just can't get away from them at all. So very good ganks, good sustain still, good ability to solo objectives in the jungle still. So we're going to put them up in the A+ tier. Let me know what you guys think. We may come around and adjust some of this at the end of the tier list, like I said, but that's where we want to put them. Coming back down here into the B tier, we want to talk about who we want to move up first or down. Rampage, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and move down into C. You're not seeing Rampage very much. You are seeing some people still try to use him, but I think what he offers you compared to a lot of the other junglers right now is just not... Rarely do you get good value out of taking the Rampage over like a Sevrog. You're almost never going to get good value. Or even a Richter in jungle. You're just not going to see it. Or like a Zarus in jungle. Even Grux, I would say, has good jungle potential just with the more DPS output that he has. Rampage is still... You still will see him do decent sometimes, but your team comp has to be really focused around having the Rampage, and he has to be good enough to know when to get in and out of fights, whereas some of these other heroes just make it a lot easier. So we're going to slide him down to C just because I haven't been seeing him picked very often. Skylar, Fang Mao, I think are still good. Matchup / comp dependent for sure. Greystone, I'm going to move Greystone up to A-. You're seeing him picked a lot. He does have, obviously, great survivability with the ult. Great pressure. He can run down solo lane if he gets ahead at all and starts building crit. Just annoying to play with. Doesn't have the hard CC type stun that you would like to see from a lot of these heroes, but he is pretty much always good just because of how you're going to be playing with him. You're going to be able to split up team fights. You're going to be able to chase people down and annoy him. His passive does come in clutch a couple times during a game, so I'll put him up here. Who else do we got here? We still have Seraph, FaZe, and Kira. I think Terra definitely stays in matchup dependent. You could make an argument potentially that she is always good, but just from a number standpoint, she's been nerfed a lot of times. Her escape options aren't as good as somebody like Greystone's, who can just jump out even if people aren't in their way. She can get blocked, and unlike Crunch, where her dash gets blocked, she's locked out. If Crunch's dash gets blocked and he has his ult, he can just double dash and get away a second time. So, or knock someone up and stun him out that way. You could say the same for her if you wanted to try to hit someone with a root and get away from them. But I'm just not seeing her picked that much anymore. You guys let me know if you're seeing her picked more. Kira and FaZe. I think Kira is definitely one of the weaker carries right now. Just doesn't offer as much as some of the other carries offer damage-wise. You know, her ult still does nothing but clear minion waves. Has good mobility like Twin, but doesn't have as good of a passive as Twin or the ult with the long range like Twin has, but very similar. We'll move her down here. FaZe, kind of same thing. You will see her picked a lot because she's a pretty easy support to play, and she can help your carry out a lot. But for a support that you're building full damage, she just does not compete with the other supports that you're building full damage. You know, if you're building an Argus, Zinx, Decker, Bellicum, you know, that's just 4 supports right there that basically apply CC and do more damage than a FaZe pretty much all the time. So rarely do you get good value off of FaZe. There are certain situations where they have a Richter and you want to pull your carry out of a Richter and stuff like that, but I just wouldn't pick her right now, to be honest with you. And then Seraph, I've been seeing Seraph too much. I want to move her up here into A+, I think. We've just been seeing her a lot coming out of jungle, and she's really good at chasing people down, similar to Chimera, where you probably can't get away from a Seraph. And at the same time, she has the benefit over Chimera that she's going to be able to get out of a fight easier. So, don't think I've ever seen her banned, but have been seeing her played quite a bit. So we're going to slide her up here into A+. Yeah, I think, like I said, we'll go look through it at the end and try to adjust it around a little bit more, but we're going to slide her up there for now. Alright, So that covers the old B tier. Now let's look at the C tier. Rarely get good value. I think we did get a comment here saying Rev and Morgesh, I think you're putting too low. They both do well in the current meta, Rev especially. So let's look at those two first. Morgesh, you have been seeing her played still a lot. I'm not a fan of Morgesh, what she provides for the team, because it is all damage. It's not CC based. And a lot of your better mid laners right now are doing both a ton of damage and applying CC. You know, I'm looking at Faye, I'm looking at Argus, I'm looking at Howitzer. I think she is still matchup or comp dependent. If you're in a team comp where you already have a ton of CC and maybe you don't need one more CC applying hero, then you can take her as just your pure damage dealer. But most of the time I'd rather have a Faye or an Argus just to give me CC along with a ton of damage. So we'll move her up out of C. She is matchup comp dependent, and not rarely do you get good value out of, because you do usually get good value out of her. It's just not the same as some other situations. Muriel. So the question is, Muriel, does she go to B or does she go to A? A minus, that is. Probably not A plus, right? Because it is still Muriel. Let's slide her up into A minus for now. Always good. I'm usually pretty happy to see a Muriel right now. It just depends on your comp. I think with that being said, we'll just leave her at B for now. Let me know what you guys think. I know Pinzo has a high opinion of her right now, but Muriel it's kind of skill dependent on who is playing the Muriel, but she does do an absurd amount of damage, so big fan of Muriel. Borderline, always good for sure. We'll leave her up here at the top of B right now, and then we'll take another look at the end. And then, like I said, Rev, I think we probably want to move Rev up to A minus. Been seeing Rev a lot right now. He does hit extremely hard, and I think most of the carries are pretty balanced. I'd definitely prefer to see him over a Sparrow right now, or probably a Skylar. So we'll slide him up here into A minus. You know, that puts him on par with Twin, which I think is a good comparison. Rev is pretty hard to catch once he gets ahead. Does work with a lot of the items people are building right now. And if you have a good support with him that can apply some CC like a Decker, he's going to be pretty much impossible to get away from. Just hard to play from behind. That's the only thing, is he is hard to play from behind. Unless your support is playing very well, he can get shut down or chased down easily. So we'll put him up here. You got to be good with him, but he is pretty decent in the meta right now. Grim, Shinbi, I think both still belong in the rarely get good value tier. There's not a lot of situations where I want to take a Grim over, even over a Sparrow or a Skylar, to be honest with you. He just feels like a worse Murdoch right now, kind of a little bit. Feels like a worse Skylar in some ways. Still can run people down if you get ahead with him and if you're good with blocking abilities with his shield, but I probably just wouldn't. He's probably my least preferred carry to see on my team at this point. And then Shinbi, kind of same thing as Morgesh. You're not applying CC, you're just dealing damage, and the magical solo laners are not necessarily much into the meta right now. You can probably still build her full tank and get good value, but you look at her kind of in the same way you look at Greystone, as they're dealing damage with good mobility, but no hard CC, and for her, the ult potential of killing somebody like right after a team fight when they're low just probably isn't as valuable as the ult of Greystone to just keep him alive and keep him in the fight and slow people down, which is really nice in a huge area. So we're going to leave her down here, and then we already talked about Rampage, Kira, and FaZe. And then looking at the one tricks, Wraith, Kalari, Yin, like we said, you got to be good with them to get good value out of them. Have been seeing a lot of Wraiths, but it's kind of 50-50 on if they win the game for you or if they throw mid lane completely because they're not good. So that's what we're looking like here. Let's go top to bottom and see if we want to order these a little different and move anybody around. I think, obviously, Bellica broken. I think Decker is one of the most close to broken heroes that we have. A lot of the supports are just really strong right now. Aurora I still like up here. Murdoch I think is for sure up here. I think the mid laners are kind of a little bit closer together, like Faye, Argus, Howie are a little bit closer together. I'm kind of leaning towards Howie being at the end of A because you're not really going to ever see him banned. I think I actually want to drop Howie. To always good because putting him in the same tier as Faye and Argus doesn't really seem fair right now, but putting him in the same tier as Iggy Gideon I think is a little bit more fair. Drongo's still one of the top carries. Richter's still completely game-changing. Sevrog, if you're not good with Sevrog, he's not going to be like a top priority pick or ban, I would say. Maybe we slide him into the top of always good, but at the same time, he just offers you a lot right now that's kind of non-negotiable. We'll leave him at the very end. Seraph, I think, probably a little bit ahead of him. Kai and Seraph, pretty much same deal. Countess up here. Countess is kind of a unique situation that you're getting the most out of her, but she is definitely one of the upper echelon picks right now. I think that looks pretty good for A+ tier. Like I said, these aren't necessarily heroes that you're for sure seeing picked or banned. I would say they are top priority, but what I'm more saying is these are heroes where if they're on the other team, you're playing around them. Either your support is forcing to build cleanse and hold cleanse to deal with them. You're forcing yourself to position in team fights in a way where they can't hit you with certain abilities. I'm thinking Murdoch, I'm thinking Drongo. You're trying to position in a way in the team fights that they can't push you back with the shotgun or silence you. I'm thinking about Richter, you're trying to, like I said, hold the cleanse if you're the support, or play around when he doesn't have his ult or his pull up. Countess, you got to respect the damage. Chimera and Seraph you can't get away from, and Sevrog is probably the tankiest late game, hardest to burst down hero, so we'll leave him up there. A tier, always good. I think this is probably where Howitzer belongs. Howitzer, Twin pretty close to being on par with Drongo and Murdoch in most situations. Iggy, very unique, good team fight presence, good objective secure presence. Steel, very easy to play and get the most out of. Zarus, same thing, very easy to play, good early game and late game. Hard to stop him rolling if he is rolling. Crunch, I'm a little biased on. We'll slide him down to the end because that's a lot of personal bias there. But I think he is really good right now with the damage and the CC that he provides. Narbash, good all game. Gideon, one of the safer mid laners with that teleport out and the ult doing ridiculous damage now. Same kind of concept for Greystone, very safe with both a leap that cannot be stopped and his ult keeping him in fights. Rev, if he gets ahead, he's hard to stop. If he's got a support with him that's playing well or hitting their stuns, hard to stop him. So we'll leave him up here. B tier, matchup dependent. Okay, well, do we want to order these any different? I think Howie Twin near the top. I think Greystone near the bottom. Gideon potentially near the bottom as well. Just the safety just makes him up here. Narbash, Zarus, yeah, I think this is a pretty good ordering. Kind of hard to order one role against another, but I think that's the best we can do. Matchup comp dependent. Quang, Gadget are probably near the top of this tier. Sparrow, Skylar are pretty close to each other. Fang Mao, Terra are pretty close to each other, although they do very different things for your team. Grux, still like impossible to play against a lot of time in solo lane. And Mori, I'm just not that big of a fan of what she provides. You could definitely justify having her higher in the tier. I think you're going to see her a lot more than some of these other ones. You're probably going to see her more than even Gadget, but I just don't like what she provides for the team in most situations. Very matchup or comp dependent. Terra probably doesn't deserve to be the bottom of this tier, but I don't know who else really fits down here. Maybe Sparrow, because I would probably take Skylar over her most of the time. Yeah, we'll do that. Like I said, comparing roles to roles is not really fair because I think most of the carries are pretty close right now, whereas some of the solo laners and junglers have a little bit more gap on them. And then the rarely get good value tier. Grim, Like I said, it's not preferred at carry. Shinbi, no hard CC. Just kind of a damage, magical power solo laner. Still can do a lot of damage with her for sure, similar to Greystone in some ways. Rampage, not really an ideal jungler right now. Not going to take him over Sevarog almost ever. Kira, maybe doesn't deserve to be this low. Maybe Kira's more towards the top here. Yeah, Kira's probably more towards the top of this tier because she still does provide a lot. Just the ult does nothing, which is really unfortunate. And then FaZe, you just do not like to see her, honestly. It's, you know, playing against her is annoying, but playing with her that's not good is even worse. And then the one tricks, Yin. Yin, probably, I mean, Kalari's bottom for sure. Yeah, Rafe and Yin are pretty much close to each other. So that's going to do it for this tier list. That's where I've got everybody organized. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know, like in the first video, where you think some of these heroes should be moved around. I tried to get an extra tier in here so we can kind of delineate a little bit tighter against which heroes are getting played more. Like I said, this A+ tier, you're not necessarily seeing any of these banned or all of these banned or picked in every game. Maybe 75-80+% of games you're seeing these heroes picked or banned. But if they're a hero that forces your team to play around them, they are a top priority for sure. Always good, you know, if you like playing these heroes, you're in a good spot right now, you're happy with this meta. Matchup comp dependent, still can be very good, especially if you're already good with these heroes. But maybe has a little bit more meta picks that you could replace them with in most games and then rarely get good value. Heroes that I'm just not excited to see on my team. So then, of course, one tricks. If you're good with them, you can carry games. I've seen plenty of Rafes, Yins, and even Kalaris right now carrying games. You just got to be good with them, and you cannot get behind with them or else you're going to be in trouble. So that's going to do it for the tier list, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out the version 1 of this tier list prior to this update if you guys want to see where we originally put all these heroes or talked about where we were putting these heroes. Like I said, I expected to see a patch notes by now for the Winterfest that's coming out probably around this week, and we have not seen that yet, so I'm going to go ahead and update you for this patch. When the next patch comes out, we'll talk about it in the patch notes video and see, you know, where we're assuming these heroes are going to move around, and then obviously we'll play test before we make a tier list. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. I know it went a little long. Look for a crunch video in solo lane coming out soon. Had been trying out some different builds with him and doing very good with him. So thanks for watching. We will see y'all in the next one.